Yeah.
Hey guys, I know it's been a minute, but I am back today to bring you another movie review. This one I've been very excited to see and talk about for a long time, and that of course is the latest film from A24, Problemista, written, directed by, and starring Julio Torres, as well as Tilda Swinton, Riza, Greta Lee, Catalina Saavedra, and James Scully, and narrated by Isabella Rossellini. This story follows an immigrant from El Salvador and an inspiring toy designer as he works through his struggles to try to get a visa to stay in the United States, and in trying to do so comes across a eccentric wife of a painter who's frozen in cryogenic sleep, who needs his help to install an art show of her husband while she still has a chance. Now, ever since I saw the trailers for this in theaters last year, I was very excited to see this film. It looked very quirky and offbeat, but in a very delightful sort of way. Julio Torres struck me as someone who had a very interesting voice, especially considering he's doing all these things. This really is his movie, first and foremost, and I thought it looked so great and delightful, but unfortunately it was delayed by the SAG-AFTRA strike. They pushed it to this year, and so I finally got a chance to check this out this past weekend, and it was just as I would have expected. I think that this is such a great film, and a great debut for Julio Torres as a filmmaker and just as a voice in general. I mean, he is so interesting. And I don't think we've seen direction this creative in the sense that it truly comes from the mind of one individual, in the way he sort of takes these very internalized actions or thoughts and externalizes them in a very theatrical sort of way. Of course, there's a certain segment of the film where he's looking for jobs, and he goes on Craigslist, and Craigslist is actually played by an actor named Larry Owens, who's really funny in those scenes, and he makes really, mundane ideas interesting. And I think that's really what makes Problemista stand out from not only a visual, but also a directorial and writing standpoint. It really is quite interesting, and I haven't seen a film quite like this. And the humor is just as offbeat as I had expected, and just as hysterical as I would have liked it to be. I think, yet again, the comedy here is something that's really a winner. I think his style and tone is really interesting compared to a lot of his contemporaries, and it really reminded me a lot of The Graduate. And I certainly feel that watching Julio Torres as a performer, it reminded me a lot of Dustin Hoffman in The Graduate. Just that very awkward type of sensibility in the way he's trying to interact with people, but he's not able to really fully get his words in. He's definitely channeling a lot of that. Now, will I say the dramatic chops are on par with Dustin Hoffman? No. I mean, say what you will about Dustin Hoffman, but he is one of the greatest actors of all time. So you aren't quite getting that type of acting level debut, but I still think he really has quite a future as an actor. I just think he needs to nail the dramatic chops a little bit more to be really, really someone we are going to be reckoning with in that field. But I will have to say, to match up to him perfectly, we have Tilda Swinton in here, who plays the wife of this artist who she's trying to get his art installed in a gallery, and she is just absolutely bonkers and bizarre and pitch perfect, and one of the wackiest and best supporting turns of the entire year so far. You could even say that she's Oscar worthy in this. It is a very zany, over the top performance, but not in a way that doesn't feel consistent with the film's tone and the story that Torres is going for here. And I think She really steals every scene in this movie. Tilda Swinton is one of the greatest actors of all time. We know this, so this should be no surprise, but it's delightful nonetheless that she is as good as she is in the story. And the story itself is really one that I find quite relatable. Not to me personally, but, you know, just that immigrant story. Someone trying to make their way and navigate through the system that is the United States. And I really love what he highlights in this and what he has to say about certain, you know, business practices, and how people who are in this position often have to take very diminutive and demeaning jobs just to stay afloat and maintain a living. It really is something that was kind of eye-opening in a way that I guess I just haven't looked at it from that perspective. And yet again, it isn't all just, you know, completely drab. Like, this film is light in a way that I don't think necessarily distracts from a lot of the drama. In some ways it kind of elevates it and makes you look at it from a different type of lens, and I think it makes it in some ways more digestible. And yet again, there's so many ideas he's rattling off here, and so many great people just show up. Greta Lee has one really great small scene that she's in, and obviously she's great and everything since Past Lives, and very excited to see what she does going forward. And of course RZA's in this movie as the husband of Tilda Swinton. And, you know, he's very, very much a prominent figure in the story, even if we don't see him all the time or just see him through flashbacks. I think he was quite good in the scenes he was in. And yet again, I love how Torres accentuates and externalizes a lot of harsh truths and ideas in a way that we can understand. Like, for instance, he shows people who don't get their work visas renewed just kind of disappear in thin air, kind of like Thanos after the snap, and everyone in that movie. Anyway, enough Marvel references, but yet again, it's stuff like that that really make this type of film and his vision so refreshing. I really can't emphasize that I haven't seen a movie quite like this in a while, and I think the emotional payoff that this film gets to by the end was something that was, you know, sort of caught me off guard, but in a very positive sort of way, that I was like, oh wow, that's a great way to bookend that story. And I also have to point out the production design as well, which really is very kind of Kaufman-esque in certain scenes that really stuck out to me, and yet again just added to the utmost amount of creativity that's already present in this film. And I really love the musical score in here too. Might end up being one of my favorites of the year, at least for now, as it stands. But yet again, so many things about this movie that work. Some criticisms I do have with it, however. I think that it sometimes over-explains certain elements of the story, especially in the narration from Isabella Rossellini, who of course is an icon herself. I really do think that though it can be sometimes insightful and funny, sometimes it just feels like it's explaining things to get exposition across to the audience, and I don't entirely like that, but yet again, it's not throughout the entire film, or at least it's only in like small portions. You aren't getting beat over the head with it for the entire runtime, like every few minutes or anything like that. And also the relationship with his mother, who's played by Catalina Saavedra. I really think they could have expanded that a lot more, as opposed to just explaining things, because it could have given the narrative thrust even that much more oomph than it already had. But yet again, this is a very hysterical, thoughtful, and visionary film about someone trying to find their way in life and finally kind of learning how to assert themselves in certain situations and just try to find success. I mean, it's a story that we all, you know, can relate to. It's the story about the American dream. It's a story about, you know, the betterment of oneself. And yeah, I really did love this movie, and I'm glad it turned out just like I'd hoped it be. So I'm going to give Problemista an 8.5 out of 10. Definitely one of my favorite films of the year so far. I mean, this year is bonkers how good it is. It is March, and I already have a top 10 full of films that I actually love. I mean, that never happens this early on in the year, and yet again, films like Problemista are the reason because of that, and I really can't wait to see what Julio Torres does next. I'm going to keep an eye out on anything that he does from now on, and yeah, so that's my review of Problemista, guys. Let me know if you saw it down in the comments below and what you thought of it, and of course, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more movie reviews like this, which I certainly will be bringing you in the next couple days. Of course, with a film that I am also very, very excited to talk about, Hundreds of Beavers. Yet again, a curio oddity, if there ever was one, but certainly a must-see film from this year. And of course, I will get a lot more into that sooner than later, so please keep your eyes peeled out for that. And until then, you guys take it easy, and I'll talk to you in the next video.